Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to Mallory's Weird World Adventures, the podcast. I'm your host, Mallory, and I'm here to show you just how weird this world of ours really is. And I am very excited today to have Kelsi Davies here with me, too. Hi, Kelsi.
Hi.
Kelsi is an actress and paranormal influencer. And like me, she also identifies as the weird girl, which I love.
Yep. It's the best thing to be, honestly.
So it's something to celebrate.
I know. I'm like, that's like being, in my opinion, it's like being your most authentic, unique self. Like the world is just a little weird. And I'm like, it's okay to be weird. Like you don't need to be, I don't know, quote unquote normal. I'm like, what is normal? Right?
Right. I feel like once you learn to celebrate your uniqueness and your weirdness and take it like a compliment, you enjoy life so much more because you become authentically yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so can you tell me, Kelsey, a little bit about your career and what it is you do?
Yeah, so my name is Kelsi. I'm an actress. I'm also a clairvoyant and a singer and a creator. Just like I just do a bunch of different things, and I visit some of the most haunted locations in the world, and I just really expand and explore my spirituality online, and I like to share my experiences with people and just my main goal was to build a whole community where people can just come and feel safe and feel like they could be weird or they could be uniquely them or they can share like their ghost stories or their own spiritual experiences and not feel alone because I feel like growing up I felt very, very alone and very misunderstood and just like the weird girl, So I just wanted to embrace what people would call me and like in a fun, positive way. I'm like, why would that be a bad thing? So that's why I just started doing like a lot of online content. I do a lot of weird core content as well. So it's just a lot of very uncanny, kind of unsettling but comedic horror skits and themes like that. Like I have a tooth fairy character I made, based on the tooth fairy that, you think about the tooth fairy and you're like, what does she do with the teeth? Like, why does she collect? Why does this lady come or whoever come and collect teeth? Like, what does she do? So I kind of had fun and just created this whole character around that and this lore and everything. But yeah, I just really, really enjoy I don't know, just being me and whoever likes it can stick around.
I love that. I love that so much. And we met at the Warrens Paracon this year, and we both actually had a mutual friend with Bonnie Aarons.
Yes, I love Bonnie.
She's amazing. I worked on a short with her, or a pilot with her, I guess, several years ago, and you worked on a piece with her as well.
Yes, yeah, we're in a short film together that should be released soon. I think it's being submitted to festivals and stuff right now, and hopefully pitched for a potential feature. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so tell me about, I guess, your experience at the Warrens Paracon. Was it your first convention?
So I've done like VidCon,
Mhm.
so I've done that, but this was my first ever paranormal convention, and I didn't even know they had paranormal conventions, which I was like, why did anyone tell me this, Because I saw a lot of my friends went last year, the year prior, and I was like, that looks so fun, like a bunch of people that are just into the paranormal, how cool. So we like contacted them, and I was like, I want to come. And then we got it all set up, and it was really, really an amazing, beautiful experience. And I met so many great people and people who watched me. A lot of people showed up, which was so, so great and surreal. And um, yeah, I just had a really, really great time, and all the haunted objects and everything. It's so
Yes.
cool.
I never knew that Annabelle was a real story until maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I've always been terrified of Raggedy Ann, like my whole life. I've never liked Raggedy Ann. Like we're not friends.
Interesting. What
And,
do you think? Do you think
yeah,
it's
I
just
don't.
like the face or like what?
I guess, I had a Raggedy Ann when I was a kid, and I had a dream that she tried to kill me. And I think like from that moment on, it was like
Yeah,
we're not friends. I can't do this.
very valid. Yeah.
Yes. And so yeah, she haunted my dreams, and it was my brother who told me, well, like Annabelle's real and she's a Raggedy Ann. And it was, I think, the first year that they had done an evening with Annabelle when they were celebrating the Halloween stuff. And man, I was like, well, great, they're gonna move Annabelle out of the museum, and I'm gonna be like thinking about this all night, even though I'm nowhere near it. Like, I don't know, it just because she was Raggedy Ann, it added that extra level of terror. And then I, of course, I had to get them on my show.
Yeah.
So we did an interview for the pilot, and Annabelle was on there, and it was such a surreal experience, I guess, getting to be around Annabelle for the first time. And I want to hear about, I guess, your first experience meeting Annabelle, and if you felt that she was haunted, and how that whole experience went.
Yeah, so we did do a investigation at the Warrens Occult Museum prior to Paracon. So I did get to meet all of the wonderful entities beforehand, and I had a few very interesting experiences. So like with the museum, I don't know a whole lot. I wasn't a huge like Ed and Lorraine follower or anything like that. I just know from the Conjuring movies and stuff. And then
Mhm.
I would do like research on Annabelle because of course I had to like learn about this doll. And I kind of learned a little bit about them, but I never really dove into everything that they did and all the
Mhm.
cases. Like I didn't even know they did the Amityville
Mhm.
case until like this year, or I mean, I can't even remember if I did research before and like found out however I found out, but I've just been learning more and more and more about how connected they are to a lot of the locations I go to and things like that. And so when I went in there, we first went into Ed and Lorraine's house, and I felt Lorraine like her, I don't know if it was residual energy or what it was, but I felt her presence in a way there. And
Mhm.
it was very welcoming. And it was, I don't know, it was very comforting to feel that. And so that was a interesting experience. And then once we went into the museum, I walked in and next to the shadow doll, I got like this dizzy spell. It felt like I was in like a tornado for like a sec.
Oh,
And it was very just really intense. I couldn't figure out what that was, if it was negative or what it was, it just kind of took me for a moment. I had to like catch my breath. And then I was getting like it's interesting because with Annabelle and stuff, there's actually a doll that kind of sits near her in the museum.
mhm.
And I kept seeing this disfigured, older looking woman
Mhm.
near Annabelle's case. And I didn't know like where it was coming from, and so I like kind of drew her out and I drew like all this chaotic energy behind her. And I think it was Dan who pointed it out, and he was like, there's like a lady, and we believe she died in a fire, and that's the fire doll, and everything I
Mm.
drew around her, it looked like fire. And so we were like, oh my gosh, this could be
Wow.
her. So we started connecting with her, and on the Seer app, like the flames popped up on there. And she was making the
Wow.
go all crazy and stuff. So that was really fascinating to experience that. And then with Annabelle herself, it was interesting. I was trying so hard to connect. I think that they do have like such a blockade with her
Mhm.
because of they constantly are blessing the case. They're
Yes.
constantly, like building this barrier around it. And so I wasn't quite able to like connect directly with her for a minute. We sat there and did a Estes method, and I really tried to tap into the energy, and I saw like this little girl, behind a piece of it looked like glass. It looked like there was a
Mhm.
barrier in between us. Like she was trying to kind of come forward to me. And then I had this really intense vision because we were like asking, we were like, oh, what will happen if we open your case? Because we were going to. Uh,
Mhm.
and I
Oh,
get this
wow.
intense vision. Ed started coming through, and he was holding the case in my mind's eye, like holding the case, going, no, no, shaking
Oh,
his head, no. And he was doing this. Do not open it. Do not open it. He was sitting there very adamant about it. Uh, and then
wow.
it was pretty interesting. And then at one moment too, I got this vision. I was like, Annabelle, show me what you look like. I want to see what you look like. And it was just this very stereotypical looking demonic face that was
Mhm.
just dark. It was completely like I, just like shadowed, I guess.
Hmm.
It had the horns and everything and this big old
Yeah.
like smile with teeth.
Oh.
Like, oh, okay. That's great. Love that for
Hmm.
you. So that was my experience. But have you felt anything with like her?
Yeah, so when I went, we brought a lot of protection because I wasn't, we did more of an interview than an investigation at the time, and I had several things just with me to make me feel more safe, I guess.
Yeah.
And it felt very like there's something presently there, but it's covered. Like I felt very much like because they're blessing it, it just feels almost like serenely peaceful, like something kind of masked over
Yes.
something more.
Yeah.
Yes. I felt very much that. And it was funny because my camera person went in to kind of get some B-roll in the museum first.
Mhm.
And we didn't like no one walked us through. Like we were all talking outside and he just went in and was going through and didn't realize, I guess, where Annabelle was and kind of turned around and "Oh," like I don't know. She like somehow startled him and got like a pop fright out of him because he
Oh
didn't
no.
know to expect her. But yes, it felt very it was an interesting feeling because it did feel like there's so much history and energy and interesting stories and things that are all there that are kind of masked with, them trying to like, bless it and keep it at bay.
Right. And as like a collective consciousness, I feel like it kind
Yes.
of feeds that as well. Like
Hmm.
everyone's like, Annabelle's haunted, Annabelle's evil. So it's gonna like manifest that energy even more so as well. You know?
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
yeah.
I'm all about the collective consciousness. I study consciousness at the Monroe Institute, and something that I think that there's some kind of collective or global consciousness out there that we haven't yet figured out how it works. And there's some science to it, and it seems like magic because it's a science that hasn't yet been figured out. And they have done tests where they have taught monkeys on one side of the world to utilize tools, and then monkeys on the other side of the world who have not had that training suddenly start to learn how they know how to do it without having been taught. So there's some kind of thing that we can tap or connect into. And I
Yeah.
think that that deserves a lot of research and time that we've yet to put into it.
Yeah, for sure. That's something that I really like experienced with like plant medicine and things like that. I was kind of telling you about some of my experiences. Um and when I achieved like in an enlightened state, I was one with everything and
Mhm.
there was no separation from like me with the wall, with the couch, with anything. Like everything was one divine energy, and it
Mhm.
was all this interconnected web of everything. And so I think that too, with us, because we're all like spirit having this human experience, we're all like
Mhm.
energetic beings, consciousness and everything like that. And I feel like we come here to experience being separate. We gain an ego, which makes us separate from this divine source energy that we are all a part of, that there is no
Mhm.
separation from. So when you meet people who are just very spiritually connected or connected with the divine consciousness, that's what it is. Like we're tapping into all these different fractals and different pieces of things, that's why I
Mhm.
even say, because, even like because I'll refer to myself as a psychic and stuff,
Mhm.
people kind of foresee it. They're like, oh, psychic is you see the future. And I'm
Mhm.
like, yes and no, because the future, the present, the past is all like here right now simultaneously
Mhm.
at once. Time doesn't exist.
Mhm.
So it's like, when we're tapping into the future or the past, we're just tapping into different energy frequencies and different things within that web, if that makes
Mhm.
sense too. So there's a lot to it, but I love that you're studying like that
Yes.
part because it's so real and it's so fascinating, and it's just I know that people will understand it more and more as we evolve and everything.
Yes. And you definitely you said it perfectly too. Like the way that the research has gone at the Monroe Institute was that Bob Monroe, who founded it, was an audio broadcast engineer. So he was good with like radio frequencies. So he started mapping out different levels of consciousness. So, there's different, like he would give a number as a way to label the different, planes you could kind of shift to, or like, and he would call frequencies you could shift to. And so he was the first person that kind of started leading a guidepost for people to follow and putting in audio frequencies and binaural beats and things like, okay, well, if I do this, this kind of gets you to this frequency and we're going to label it this. And it's very interesting. So I guess I should backtrack a little bit about what got you involved in the paranormal.
Yeah, so when I was little, I would have a lot of dreams of like deceased people coming to me, and I would
Mm-hmm.
dream of things prior to them happening, and I would have a lot in my dreams. I would sleep a lot as a child. They actually took me to the doctor because they were like concerned because I was sleeping a lot, and they
Mm-hmm.
were like, she just likes to rest, she just likes to sleep, and they were like, nothing's wrong. And so it's crazy because I would always go into like, if I was ever in an environment like a big crowd or a big group of energy people, I would get so energetically drained. And my parents knew, like, oh, she needs her nap after we go like socialize or go do this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of were like, oh, okay, social anxiety, that's the diagnosis or whatever. But it was so much deeper than that. And so I mean, I would see like even people would walk by me and I would see a trail behind them of like a color or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I thought it was normal. Like I thought everyone would see these trails of color, almost like a ghostly thing behind people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of like confused me. And so I'd be at like someone's funeral. Like I grew up going to more funerals than I've gone to more funerals than I have weddings. Like I grew up going to funerals a lot, unfortunately. And I would always feel or have glimpses of the person who had passed at the funeral. I'd be like, why are they here, but they're in the casket there? Like I'd be
Mm-hmm.
very, very confused and would have all these experiences and they would scare me. I just didn't understand them. I would always see this man too very prominently that I later learned was my great grandfather. Um, and he scared me a lot. So I tried to block it out for a long time. And, I would try to tell people at school and stuff, and they were just like, you're lying, blah, 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 like they just,
Right.
right. So I just blocked it out for a long time, and I just kind of convinced myself, like, oh, I was just like a kid. I was just imagining things, right? Society does that to us.
Yes.
And so later on, I started having more and more experiences because I went to a very dark place with like depression and
Mm-hmm.
anxiety and just a very, very lower vibrational state. And I started experiencing a lot of negative things like in my sleep, like sleep paralysis
Mm-hmm.
episodes. I would have like very, very scary dreams of these entities, like trying to do things and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I would start predicting like there was this fire by our house that I dreamed about. And then I told my mom all day about this fire and like this mushroom cloud and all this stuff that was in my dream. Then the next day, the fire happened by the house. There was this big
Mm-hmm.
mushroom cloud, like everything I explained.
Wow.
And I even like was vlogging that day. I was like, guys, am I psychic? Haha, I was like joking about it. Uh, and then I think it was like a couple years ago, I started like diving into my family's history because I wanted to learn more about like what is this? What is
Hmm.
something? What is this?
Right.
And so once I dove in, I found out like on the Native American side of my family, they're the Sisseton Wahpeton Sioux, and they all were like mediums and psychics, and they would do seances and they would do all these things, and no one told me.
Mm.
Like no one in my family let me know because they all didn't have it or they weren't just open to it.
Right.
And I think they just didn't think it was relevant.
Hmm.
But I was like, why didn't you tell me that this is a thing in our family that we're like open to or whatever? And so then I started diving into that and then diving into plant medicine and
Mhm.
exploring with all that and going to a different country and having a multiple profound experiences that
Mhm.
even my friend, her name is Amy, and she's died and come back multiple
Mhm.
times. And everything I experienced is like exactly what she experienced when she died.
Mhm.
So it was like experiencing death, but not dying in a way. So
Right.
I was like, what is this, And there was one pivotal moment in Costa Rica when I achieved enlightenment. And a
Mhm.
lot of people don't understand that when I say it. They're like, oh no, it takes years to achieve that. Like you didn't achieve it, And I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't even, there's no words to explain it. There's no possible way I can sit there and like, even when I talk about it, my body starts trembling because it's remembering. It's that such a high vibration
Mhm.
that it was like I was not Kelsi anymore and I was everything and I knew everything
Mhm.
and saw everything and it was terrifying, but it was also really beautiful and profound. And I thought I was dead.
Mhm.
Like, am I gonna go back to Earth? Like, I thought I was dead because I was seeing all over the walls, all seeing eyes. So you know
Mhm.
the eyes with the triangle and the
Yeah.
I was seeing like on the walls. Like not even like, oh, did I it's like was on the walls, and Egyptian hieroglyphics through the
Wow.
entire environment, through the floor, eyes, which are very significant for me, like literal eyes, not blinking or anything, but they would be through the environment and eyes with wings and all these like just wild imagery. And it was just I have no words for it.
Mhm.
There's no way I can explain it, but it changed my entire life that day. I was reborn that day. And
Wow.
I mean, I came back and my family was just like, you're like a different person now. Like I just seemed so much, I don't know, more fulfilled, happy, and just so
Mhm.
grateful. And yeah, there's
It's
so much.
incredible.
Yeah.
I can say that I have had dreams, and it's been very strange where it's felt like I've crossed over to the other side, and I just know everything and how it's going to turn out, and everything's good. And you have that like, well, oh, this is I don't know, this feeling that you just everything is in place and you know everything you need to know and you're connected to everything. And then woken up and like the come down from being in that place and then waking up in a dream like and kind of starting to lose it, but still having that feeling of, well, I know everything
Yes.
is
Yeah.
okay. And I know things are where they need to be, but I don't remember any specifics of what I saw or what's happening. But just that interesting come down of like and the release of, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We're okay. Like
Yes.
fine. Like it's hard because we get so consumed in this experience and we get so consumed by our ego and then we like if you step back, that's what I always say too is when I do get into an enlightened state, I'm not in
Hmm.
it all the time because I need to just experience this
Hmm.
life.
Hmm.
But when I'm there, the only thing I say is I remember. And
Hmm.
right now I don't know what it is, but when you're at
Hmm.
that high vibration, you remember. You remember your purpose. You remember what everything is. You remember like how beautiful everything is and how beautiful it could be. It's like
Yes.
experiencing heaven on earth, but that's at such a high vibration that it's hard to keep at that
Hmm.
because earth is just a lower vibration.
Hmm.
It's part of the experience.
Hmm.
So it's, yeah, I don't even know how to explain it sometimes or articulate it, but I know what you mean by like
Yes,
that.
did a good job explaining it too.
Yeah.
And the I like to put, I guess, the term perspective with that a lot because that's another thing that with Monroe and meditation and things that you experience, it's so easy to get caught up in the everyday nonsense, like things that don't matter, things that are not important, little petty dramas, things that are just irrelevant in the overall picture. And it's interesting for me in meditation, at least, to shift out of here and this present reality and kind of get a perspective of the greater picture. And sometimes that even, I took a course that does like, meditation in the stars, where like it pulls you out to in your mind to see how small the earth is, and then how small the solar system is, and how small that is in the galaxy, and it keeps shifting out the perspective until you're like, well, this is such a tiny, insignificant, problem. If a problem seems so big here, when you shift that far away from it, even in just to look at like your own lifeline and where it is, it's like, well, this is irrelevant to the
Yeah.
bigger picture.
Yes, yeah. It's like it's so relevant, but it's so not at the same time, you know? And that's what they showed me too. I did like I'll call it Dimitri. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like they scientists call it like the spirit molecule.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I experienced that, it was like I had CPTSD really bad. I'd really,
Mm-hmm.
really was struggling with anxiety, struggling with depression. I was really just like in this dense, I don't know, I couldn't get out of it, you know? And so when I experienced that, they showed me physically like all this dense energy that I was clinging on to, and they showed me the bigger picture of everything. And I was like, that
Mm-hmm.
is so small, but that was consuming me. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
so, it's so small, but it's so big to me. Why was it so big to me? You know? And so it was all about just like shifting my perspective and letting
Mm-hmm.
go of that energy and letting go of all these things I was clinging on to that I thought were so important. But I was like, wow, there's so much significance in it being so insignificant.
Yes. It's interesting you had sleep paralysis a lot too, because I suffered, I think I had sleep paralysis every day when I was like 15 to like 18, every single day. And it's something that almost becomes like a technique where you learn how to get out of it. You recognize immediately what's happening. You train people around you, like, my husband, to be like, okay, well, I can't move and this is what's happening. When I make this noise, you know that I'm going through this and you can wake me up.
Yeah. It's
And
like
it
it's so terrifying though, because then your fear kind of it's like you're experiencing this fearfulness, but then once you understand, you know, what's happening, like I'll literally just call out spirit guides, angel. I'll just say that just for that energy to kind
Mhm.
of, you know, to kind of relax myself. Because when
Mhm.
you start fighting it, that's when it gets like so much more terrifying.
Yes. Yes. I learned I can like tap my finger. And if I can tap my finger, I can then move my hand. If I move my hand, I can nudge my partner or hit, do something or flail my arm. And it became very like mechanical for me. But yes, it's just no matter how many hundreds of thousands of times you go through it, the fear still occurs.
Not fun.
No, not at all. I have to ask you too about your haunted dolls. So
Yeah.
you have a collection of haunted dolls, right? Do you want to tell me about them?
Yeah. So I have Lola. She's my she's the queen of this. Just kidding. But Lola is one of my haunted dolls. She is there's the spirit of an 18-year-old woman who she was bound to the doll. Not anymore. She's like at this higher vibration. I think because of me evolving, I think that just
Mhm.
makes everything around you really, you know, because you're expanding that energy outward. I
Mhm.
think that she's at this much higher vibration now, but she's the spirit of this 18-year-old woman, and she's shown me herself with like musical instruments and stuff. It's very interesting. She loves music, she loves singing, like she's just this very beautiful. I'm like, I swear we probably were in a past life together. Our souls probably know each other. She's probably part of my spirit family. I don't know. But after I got her doll and started posting content online about her, that's when everything blew up, like on
Mhm.
social media. And I don't think it was a coincidence, you know. I think it
Right.
was very like us was meant to happen. Everything is. But I also have this new haunted doll. It's actually a Raggedy Ann doll, and it's a replica of the real Annabelle doll, which I
Oh,
got
fun.
for yeah, I got for content. I did not buy it knowing it was haunted.
Mhm.
And I was doing like a video the other day, and I just had her sitting like next to my other haunted dolls. And I had this like woman with blonde hair, this older looking lady that I kept kind of seeing, but I kind of ignored it because I live in an apartment complex
Mhm.
and there's a lot of things here. So I was like, this could just be someone's grandma or something. I don't know.
Right.
And I was doing the video and on the spirit box it goes, "My name is Liz." I was like, when I was right next to her doll, I was like, wait, are you? And it goes like blonde hair on the thing. And I was like, no, are you the blonde lady that I was seeing? And it was like very responsive. And and she likes to move her doll. Like I got it on a live stream just toppling over. I
Mhm.
had one of my little Lola plushies like literally fall off of my wardrobe randomly after it was shortly after I had brought that doll home.
Mhm.
I didn't put two and two together. Um, so I think it was her. And then I have this little voodoo doll that yeah, I mean he's calmed down a little bit, but he's definitely lower vibrational.
Mhm.
I think that his doll was used for some sort of voodoo type. There's like wax on the bottom too, and I had
Mhm.
vision of like wax, like a ritual, something someone did
Mhm.
to harm someone, I think. And then I have this other haunted doll. Her name's Marie. And there's also a spirit named Minnie too. So it's two sisters that are
Mhm.
with this one doll, which is really cool. And I have their locks of hair, like their actual hair from these sisters. And she actually showed me where she was buried. Uh,
Mhm.
we were looking through the cemetery for like, we were there for almost an hour. Like, we were about to give up because we wanted to find the grave of like these girls.
Mhm.
And I was like, just show me where you are, please. Just show me. I don't know if you can do it. And I heard like go left in my brain. I was like, okay. So I went left and I kept walking and I stopped. I didn't see it anywhere. I was like, please show me exactly where you are. And I saw this big flash of blue light. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I swear if the grave's over here, I'm gonna poop my pants. And I walked over there and I found her grave. I
Wow.
was like, oh my God, I was freaking out.
Wow.
So that was crazy. And then I have Emil. He's my last haunted doll, I think, as I know. But he's the spirit of like this French man from the 1800s. And I walked into this antique shop and he was in there and I felt the presence of him with this statue. And I kind of like kept it in my brain for a while, then I left, and then I had this dream about his statue just very briefly.
Mhm.
Okay, I wonder if he's still there. I want to go buy him, And so I went to the antique store and I brought him up to the front, and all the employees were whispering. They were like, "She's buying Santo. She has Santo. She's buying Santo." Like he was like a person. And so they started asking me, they were like, "Why are you buying like he's a weird looking statue?" They were like, "Why are you buying him?" I was like, I think there's like a spirit with him. I think I collect haunted items. And they were like, oh my God, yes, yes, he's haunted. He's haunted. And I was like, have you had any experiences like in the store? They were like, yeah,
Mhm.
with him, like he moves, like he'll be in random spots around the store. His arm will move. Like we'll see it happen. And so I
Wow.
took him home. So yeah.
That's wild.
Normal life,
Totally normal.
Yeah.
I know. Me and my guy, we went to an antique store not too long ago and got like a very disturbing looking doll and an old battle axe because we're normal people, right? And we got those weird reactions. We went up to the register and they were just like, this is a choice. This is a choice. I'm like,
Yeah, they're
wow,
like,
we're those
okay,
people.
that's funny.
So before we go, I have to ask, what's the most terrifying thing that's happened to you on an investigation?
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
Whew. I think it's definitely do you know like the Hill House? Sorry, I
Yes.
just thought something like run into
Oh,
the kitchen.
Oh boy.
Great. I love that when I'm talking about this. Ew.
I
Um,
know.
yeah, so it was at the Hill House and gosh, it was like when I walked upstairs, this house is just very haunted. There's just a lot of weird objects in there that I think there's a lot of attachments to a lot of these objects that they've brought home. Usually when I see things, as of recent, there's been more like people being prominently there. Usually it's just a
Mhm.
glimpse of someone and then you look and they're gone,
Mhm.
or it's through my mind's eye.
Mhm.
And that, like recently, it's been more prominent, like with them looking like people for longer periods of time, but the max would be like maybe 4 seconds, seeing something there.
Mhm.
But at Hill House, my first time I went there, I wish I did research on that place before I had went because
Mhm.
that place is just there's so much darkness and it's such just a lower vibrational place. And so I was seeing like things like people, like I would see this woman walk by in a white dress and with this long
Mhm.
hair, like a person. And that freaked me out. And then there was this little girl that ran through a door and I literally like backed up
Oh.
because I thought she was gonna run into me. And so that I already was just like, whoa, I'm not used to this. This is really intense,
Mhm.
especially in my state of mind I was in. This was prior to me like understanding things on a deeper level. And so I
Mhm.
was still really feeding the fear of like these negative entities, right? And
Right.
so when we went in there, first off, I had like sleep paralysis before I went there. I had this
Mhm.
really intense dream about things in the house.
Mhm.
And so I was already shaken up. My vibration was already very low. And we went in this room, um, that it was like Emily's room. And we were sitting in there and we were trying to like get away from this other entity that just makes really loud sounds and you hear it running up on you and just very intense, like this dark presence of whatever that manifestation is. And so we went into this room, and this was the most terrifying experience for me personally because it just like disturbed me to the point where I almost quit going to locations. I almost
Wow.
quit doing like these investigations and stuff because I was really, really freaked out and I didn't understand
Mhm.
things like I do now. And so we're sitting in this room and you hear like all these hisses, you hear all these little sounds outside that were already freaky. And then I started tapping into what I want to call like I don't even know what to call it, just this portal to like the most negative vibration. Someone would be like, oh, a portal to hell or whatever you want to call it. Just this very, very lower vibrational portal. And it was like I was sitting there and all these negative, really, really dark things were being shown to me through my mind's eye all at once and being downloaded into my brain all at once, like really bad things that if you went on the dark web and would go find. And
Mhm.
so I was just sitting there. You could see it in my eyes too as I was filming this experience. And I couldn't even talk. Like I couldn't even, my friends were just like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I couldn't even speak because first off, I couldn't tell them what I was seeing because it was way too dark to be
Mhm.
publicized. And like I just didn't want to. I didn't want to tell them what I was seeing in that moment. And so I was just sitting there like freaking out.
Mhm.
It definitely spiraled me, into like a form of panic and terror. And I think that's whatever this energy is in that house likes to feed off of
Mhm.
that. And so that right there, I I mean, I couldn't even edit the video, like, because this is back when I was editing all my own videos. I
Mhm.
couldn't even, like, I had to take breaks editing the video because
Mhm.
I just was remembering the feeling I had, the fear, the anxiety, and after that day too, well, we found out actually after that in that room,
Hmm.
they didn't tell us this, but apparently there were two people that supposedly worshipped Satan or something, and they
Hmm.
opened up a portal to hell in that
Oh,
room. And
oh.
I didn't know that prior.
Hmm.
Maybe I was tapping into that. That's like literally what I was seeing.
Wow.
If you think of a portal to hell, that is what it was.
Right.
Uh, that even like thinking about it still, I feel bad for my old self because I just didn't really understand things as I do now. But this was a month before I went and achieved enlightenment, and I learned I had to experience the pure darkness to
Hmm.
experience the light. I had
Hmm.
to have that balance, and I
Hmm.
had to experience both. And so I was able to understand that,
Hmm.
and that gave me more comfort in knowing and understanding it and knowing that everything just is what it is. And
Hmm.
there's a polarity and there's different perceptions of what good and what evil is, like,
Hmm.
everything like that. That's a whole other topic too that I actually wanted to ask you about is like, I always think about this, like always. So you meet some people that they're at such a lower vibration that their perception of what's good is the opposite. And it's like, what if they think that what I think? So let's say there's a really, really negative person with me,
Hmm.
and I perceive their behavior as extremely bad. And what if they perceive my behavior as extremely bad? Like there's a polarity.
Hmm.
Like their perception of bad or of evil is
Hmm.
opposite of what mine is. Therefore, there technically isn't good and evil. Everything just is, and it's all based on your own perception.
Definitely. Well, I think it all comes down to like perspective again, too, right? Because
Right?
what I
I always think
perceive as
about that.
good isn't what you perceive as good. And I think it's a mixture of like just how you genetically are, how you're born, but it's also how you're raised too, because there are still cultures in tribal Africa that kill people as like revenge killings. And that's completely an acceptable thing in their society when it's done out of revenge. So,
Yeah.
and so and we might deem that as evil. But then when you study anthropology, you're taught not to judge any cultures and to just accept like this is how they do things and it's different than how I do things. And it's definitely changed my perspective in a lot of things because we are a byproduct of our culture, of
Yeah.
what we're taught by our closest family and relatives as where we grow up, and how, and also how we're born too, because our genetics do definitely, I feel like all of that helps us define our own viewpoint on what's good and
Right.
what's not. And I don't think it's the same from person to person. And I think how people are raised and their culture have a lot to do with it. And it's like someone might think it's okay to steal or to kill if it's to protect their family, whereas someone else might be like, no, my religion tells me if I do that in any capacity that I'm going to hell and it's bad or whatever. So, we all kind of draw our own lines in the sand. And I agree how we view what's good and bad is completely subjective for each person.
Yeah, I always try to explain that to people, and some people just don't understand it, which is like it's fine, it's like very deep thinking. But there was one experience I had with a spirit. This was at Nevada State Prison,
Hmm.
and this man, he would strangle women. He strangled like 33 women or something
Hmm.
like that, something crazy. He had very abusive relationship with his mother. It stemmed from that.
Hmm.
Like because I want to try to understand like why are you this way? Why did you do this? I always want to understand people. And so it was so interesting because I was sitting in the chamber, the execution chamber where he passed,
Hmm.
and he was showing me him passing, and I was asking, why are you still here at like in this low vibration? Why haven't you moved on? Why are you still here? You know?
Hmm.
And he showed me himself laying on the table, dying,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very agonizing for him because I think they had given him a medication that he wasn't supposed to have with the lethal injection, and
Mm-hmm.
it really had a bad effect and stuff. So he was showing me him like gripping, like his fingernails were going into his skin very aggressively. And he was laying there, and you see him get up from his body, but on the ceiling, like above him, you see all the light. Like you see the angels, you see all this light that he had a choice. Even though he did all these really bad things, he had a choice
Mm-hmm.
to higher his vibration, to go with the love, to go with the light, to be like redeemed in a way, is what I perceived it as. And he chose to get up, ignore the light, and walk back into the prison. And I was like, why didn't you go? And he made me feel like afraid of it. Like he was afraid because it was so unfamiliar to him.
Mm-hmm.
He was afraid of the light. Like because he was living in complete darkness his
Mm-hmm.
entire this lifetime. And so he chose to stay because he was comfortable there rather than going
Really
with the light.
interesting.
So his perception of the light
Mm-hmm.
was negative. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that's like crazy,
I
but
think it's
like
also what you're comfortable with. We are so ingrained to like stay with where we're comfortable. People are afraid to get out of their comfort zones, and it's so much worse today because everything is catered for our modern convenience. Our cell phones, the internet, our houses, like we don't have to do anything to just get like the basic levels of comfort. And
yeah,
so we don't like to step out of it. So when something is so unfamiliar to us, we fear it.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And I think that's why a lot of people don't understand even what I do and stuff. They fear it, or they say it's demonic, or they'll say certain things because they don't understand it.
Hmm.
Like, I wish you can just understand it,
Hmm.
and I respect your opinion of it being that way. I know that's your reality, and that's
Hmm.
okay. But I just wish people could just realize like it's not nothing is as it seems. Like nothing is as it seems. And, it is hard because people do fear the unknown. It's just
Hmm.
a natural response to fear it. But once you face the unknown and you
Hmm.
sit with it, then you realize that there's just, it really isn't anything to be afraid of.
Yes.
I've always loved like quantum physics, and I've always loved, even like you saying, like we've been studying like the consciousness of it, things. I've always
Mhm.
loved the scientific like approach and aspect of it, of everything as energy. And I know that with the paranormal, it's like we perceive things as a certain way, but I think ever since experiencing what I did last year, I'm just
Mhm.
so open to, I'm like, maybe it's not exactly what we think it is. Maybe
Mhm.
this is the past bleeding into our present. Maybe this is a collection of energy. Maybe this is the way I'm perceiving this energy or this fragmented reality. Maybe you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there's so much more to it that I always love to keep an open mind with it, and just know that I don't know everything. And
Mhm.
like I experienced feeling like I knew it, like, oh my God, that's crazy. But
Yeah.
we don't know. It's just there's so much that we can't possibly understand. There's so much that's beyond our human comprehension.
Yes.
Sense.
And everybody's own experiences are subjective. There's no way to measure them. So it is something that is so hard to understand and study.
Yeah.
And they've yet to define what consciousness even is. Like there
Right.
is no actual real scientific definition that people have agreed upon, at least, of what it is. So, I mean, you have to start there, right? It's something that's so hard to define that where do you even begin?
I think it's just beyond us. I think it's,
Hmm.
unless we evolve to that point to where we truly, truly are one with it and we understand it. But I don't think humans have evolved to that point to where we're able to even comprehend what it is.
Hmm.
Because that's what I experienced is like I can't even, you can't put it into words what it is. There's no word for it. There's no possible way to just say it's this way. Like there
Mhm.
just isn't.
We can't even, say that when I see the color red, that it's the same color red that you see. We can't even, pinpoint that down.
Right.
So how do you begin to expand on it in a broader way?
Exactly. It blows my mind every day.
Me too. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Kelsi. And if you could tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah. So I'm on TikTok, Instagram. It's Kelsi Davies, KelsiiDaviess. And then my YouTube's just Kelsi Davies. And I think that's about it. But thank you so much for having me.
Of course, thank you for joining, and hopefully the season 2 of Weird World Adventures on Amazon Prime will have you out in a couple episodes.
I'd love,
Um, yeah, we're planning to do Salem, which I've never been to.
I've never been either. Oh
Oh,
my
we
God.
should do that then.
I would love that. That'd be amazing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And until next time, everybody, stay weird.